This is a Suzuki GSX-R 400 GK76A 1992. I bought it about 6 months ago. First bigger motorbike. Bought it really naively, knowing nothing about bikes. Certainly not about the mechanics. And what I've learnt is these bikes potentially have problems with the carburetors. So this bike was running rich at low revs, first gear, and would bog. So after a bit of internet search and chatting with friends, I came to the conclusion that the O-rings on the carb probably needed replacing. I then went on a voyage of discovery. And so the main thing I learned was that this bike wasn't released outside of Japan, so the manual for it is in Japanese. So you're then left to trawl the internet trying to work out how to do things. So I don't have any mechanical experience. It's really not my forte, but I've been forced to basically learn it myself. So I thought I'd make a video to share that path and hopefully benefit somebody else. So I'm going to take the carbs out of it. I've already done it and I've put things back on finger tight just so I can hold the camera while I'm doing it. But I've already taken the fairing off, which takes no explanation. Right, so the first thing you need to do is take the seat off. You'll see down there is a Phillips screw, and then there are sort of two slot retainers here. So undo the screw, lift forward, take it off. After all my readings on the net, the thing that became sort of clear was be very neat when you're doing this and take video, take photos. So the next thing that's going to come off is the tank, which is held on by two 10mm hex head screws here, and you see down here, where's my pointer? Just bear with me a second. Yeah, down here is an Allen key bolt. Forgive me if I get the terminology wrong, so I'm not a mechanic. Well, basically undo that, undo these two, it'll pop straight off. Which, the things to know I found was, which way around this lip is. I can't stress enough, take video or photos as you go about this. I bought one of these things, which is a magnetic tip tool retriever, which I've found invaluable. I've screwed that in. A bit tricky than I realised doing this in one hand, but I will persevere. And I know there's not another video like this on the net, so I guess you're going to have to suck it up if you're going down this path. I don't know what size this is, there's no dimension on it. But yeah, basically, extract that. Okay, let's come out. Suck that out. Now, underneath the tank, on mine, there are 3 hoses for fuel. I'm not clear what the specific job is, but if you just sort of take a peek, and it's really key to have your tank reasonably empty before you start this, it just makes it so much easier. So, I'm going to have to use this pointer. I'm just going to prop this up. So, one hose there goes on the back, one here, and then one just further along. They just pull off with your fingers. A little bit of fuel will come out initially. I'm sure if you put your petcock onto off, it'll stop that flow. So I'm just going to lift the tank up and then pull them off with my fingers. So 1, 2, 3. The tank now should just lift off. No. Yeah, forgot. Either side of the fairing there are 2 lugs. One there, let's pull them out. One there. Now it'll lift off. Just going to lay that gently on its side. So this is what you'll see underneath. So that was your 1 fuel, 2 fuel, 3 fuel. Next job is to take out the battery and the air box. Now if you're going to be lazy, you see there's hex head under here, one on the other side. If you're going to be lazy, you can push the fairing over, but I've noticed on here that it's just started to crack. You know, the more you push that over, the more you're going to risk that. I've just knocked these seat mounts off as well. There's one down there. When I first took this bike to bits, these were underneath the airbox. So once you've taken the tank off, I'll just stick them out of the way. Okay, so as I said before, you know, I've already finger tightened these. Okay, so I've just undone those. I'll slide that out of the way. Let's pull that out. I'm being super paranoid just to keep all the relevant bolts in their original place. Now I need to disconnect the battery. It's just a Phillips, or that is actually able to fit a, whatever these are called, not being very eloquent. Yeah, so take this off. Underneath here, the terminal, there's a little a nut that goes on that screw. If you take the battery out and slop it around, you'll lose it. So just be aware that it's there. Okay, so just pull them clear. Slide that battery out. Just going to pop that in there. Okay, you also need to take the battery cage out. Okay, it's just a couple of screws on top. Pretty sure these are all 10mm. And there's a couple underneath which, last time I had it out, I didn't tighten it up really tight. I did it tight, but not really tight, and so I've lost one. They undo underneath. You just get under the bike, you can see that's where they undo. Okay, cage now will lift out. I'm going to put that in there, but we'll make a bit of room. Just keep things neat. Neat is not my forte, but through being terrified, it's forced me to be neat. Okay, next thing that's going to come out is the airbox. It's just held in with 4 screws, which are Phillips head. There's an arrow on the airbox which tells you which way it goes in, up. When I got this bike, say it was running rich, so someone's drilled around the edge to let more air through, rather than sort of sort it out. So, let's just take these out. Yeah, I went to a few places. I went to Suzuki initially to see if they'd mend it, and they don't do bikes at this age, which my interpretation of that was you need a real mechanic on this. Where nowadays I guess they just plug them all in and diagnose them. So then when I went to a couple of mechanics and got quotes, you're talking sort of $500 plus. And my interpretation of that was, yeah, we'll do it, but you're going to pay for our education. And what I read on the net is, if it is the O-rings, it's just a case of being thorough and patient. Okay, so airbox just slides out the back. Let's put it there out of the way. Okay, there's a bit of oil in there, which apparently is quite common. Okay, next thing we need to do is undo the accelerator cable, which is here. Pay attention to the way it's routed. Mine goes around the fork, through the body, and then just winds underneath. There's that one there. This is just held in with 2 Phillips screws that come around the side. You get to under here. I put the bike on the stands to get the fairing off, which now I can't actually turn the handlebar, which made it a little bit awkward to get access here. Alright, so 2 of these. What you'll find is this clip doesn't come off the cable. There's one. Second one there. Okay, there we go. And then basically this just cracks in half. This cracks in half, and in the lid here is a nipple. Can't see it through there. Yes, there. That nipple goes into the handlebar there when you're putting it back together. So the cable, like any cable, it's got a nipple on the end. It just fits into that gap. Just pop that out and it's free. Yeah, I just rotated it forwards, slackened off the cable. It popped right out. Let's come round to the other side. The choke cable, exactly the same setup. You've got 2 screws underneath. It was a bit fiddlier to get out. Gets them out. And I found that I had to really push it up the handlebar to get that slackness. So I had to push the choke up the handlebar to get the slackness for the cable to come out. And then yeah, just pulled it out. Again, paying attention to where it goes in the body. Where's that screw on? Let's take these screws out. Alrighty. And then yeah, just route those carefully through the body. There's one. Can't do this with one hand, but yeah, I'm just going to feed this through. Okay, so that's acceleration, clutch fed through. Now comes the task of getting these carbs out. So there is these 2, which just pull off. They're attached to the carb. 1, 2. There's one that goes down the middle, which isn't attached to the carb, but it will get in the way. Let's focus on that. Which that's got a circlip underneath. Should come down here. I'll come down the other side. As you can see here, just clips onto the airbox. So pinch that off, pull it off. Come off there. I'm just going to feed this up. and out of the way. Alrighty, now you've got 4 Jubilee clips, 4 on the airbox, 4 on the engine. They just unscrew Phillips head. So I've already unscrewed them all. Now, when I initially did this, so I got those loose and there was just no movement at all. And then what I realised is, and my apologies, I've already taken it out, but there's a clip that sits in here, and it basically holds the boots for the airbox. So you take this clip out, there's one on each side, and then the boot from the airbox side, if you put your hand in the airbox, you can actually pull it backwards. And that just gives you a bit of room to work. So, and then, I don't know whether I can actually get in there. Yeah, you can see there the boots are on a little housing. They're already half out. So yeah, just I film that from here. Hands in the airbox, so just pull them backwards. In fact, you know, once you've taken the clip out, you can actually push on the carb backwards towards the airbox, and it will give you that little bit of room that you need. And then you'll find that you can then pull the carb back and out of the engine and basically drop it down. So I'm just going to put the camera down while I do that. Yeah, so you can see there, this boot's still sort of halfway forward, whereas the next one is quite flush, and the carb's now come off. This cable will get in the way. But yeah, I'm going to basically just work the carb forward, and then you have to sort of hook this around each of the lugs on the carb. So apologies, I can't do it with one hand, but you can see sort of what the story is. So I'll just pull that through. So that feeds through, and then yeah, this cable will just keep moving it around these lugs, which again, I don't know what they are. We'll pull the cable around and the carb will come out. Alrighty, there you have it. Carb out, and the clips are still on the engine side. I think they've all fallen off the back, so I'll just retrieve those, put them neat. Just going to put the carb on here. Just go and retrieve those clips. Just for the sake of tidiness and keeping things orderly and paranoid about if things need to go back in the right order or not, I'm going to just pull these boots out of the airbox, which they just pull out backwards, he says. So yeah, okay, let's try this one. Classic, yeah, this was supposed to be the easy bit. I'm going to put my hand in, see if I can get hold of it. Okay, there's one. So, just the point to note here is when you look at the bottom, there's a bit of a dip. That mirrors the carb, which you see where the jets are in there. That mirrors there, so you know that the carb boot goes back in that way. That's it, carb out. I then bought a gasket set from Blair at Light Tech in Thailand. Took about maybe 2 weeks to arrive, and it basically has all the O-rings in there. They come in these little bags with a number on it. If you then look on his website or on the forum here, I think somewhere it says, it then tells you actually where these go, and it gives you sort of, you know, a basic instruction of how to put them in. You know, the one that's not obvious is what I think is the air pilot, which is here. In actual fact, when I took mine to pieces, underneath that screw there's a spring, a washer, and one of the O-rings. When I took mine to pieces initially, none of that was there. It was just the screw, which is probably why it was running rich at low revs. But a quick look on his site showed me how it should be. And then he's actually really cool. You know, he said to me, you know, if you want to email me, I can walk you through it. So that was reassuring. So yeah, basically to replace the O-rings, I may as well show you that being as I'm at it. You need to undo these two screws, take the top off. Oh, not that one. These two. That's supposed to be airtight, and someone's put a screw in to make it airtight. But yeah, undo these two. These are famously tight and thread. I had to use a punch just to drive it into the side of some of them and tap it around, so I didn't thread them, or an impact driver. Okay, so let's see if we can do this with one hand. So these should all be reasonably. In fact, let me slacken them off, and then it'll make it easier to show you. Okay, just slacken the screws up on the top. Now, I read a lot about this on the net. I watched quite a few demonstrations. I couldn't find one specifically for my bike, but Mikuni carbs are quite common. But you know, the whole reason of doing this video, DVD, YouTube clip, what do you call it? The whole point of doing this walkthrough was to put this specific carbon bike on the map. So what I learned was be neat, have a good clear space, which is why I got this desk. Hey pup, getting a bit bored. Be tidy, be methodical. So I knew roughly what I was going to find in the top was a slide and a spring and a needle, and I knew once I took the float ball off I would find this sort of configuration. So I drew a diagram so I could put the bits on, and I was really careful to keep the bits from the first carb in the first diagram, second, etc. So you know, obviously this bike's 22 years old. The moving parts, or parts that have gas go through them, they'll wear into each other. So if you start to swap them around, it's not going to work as well. Okay, so let's unscrew these. So that's popped off. So that comes out carefully. So cap and spring, and what you'll find in there, see in here, is the needle, which be very careful when you take this off. Perhaps just poke it around the edge to be sure that it's not stuck. I'm going to put my finger in it. You know, apparently they're about $100 to replace these. So I'm going to take the slide out. You can see the needle there, and then I'll just drop that needle out. I'm just going to store that way up. You can see here a little bit of sort of crap on there, which I've given them a cursory clean. I think a point to note on the needle, just take that off, that spacer, is around the top here in minute writing is a square within a square. It's obviously a maker's symbol, and then the actual specific of this is 5 DJ5, and I think the 5 relates to 5 centimeters. DJ, I don't know, 5, but that's your needle, and it goes together. The white washer goes on the long side, and the orangey washer goes on the top. And then, as I understand it, these grooves in the top relate to how much fuel it allows it to draw, and mine was preset at 3, which, you know, at the moment I'm not going to mess with that. Okay, so that's the top off, and that's one of the O-rings you've got to replace. I can't remember which one it was now, but that's reasonably self-explanatory and goes in really easily. So coming round to the float ball, 2 screws, Phillips head, really tight. I had to say side drive these. I don't have an impact driver, and I will need to replace them which I'll put some links up on the end of the video of where I found to buy stuff. I live in New Zealand, so I found it difficult to source stuff and then paying freight for stuff overseas. Okay, bottom of the float bowl. All the new gaskets and O-rings are green, so that one's self-explanatory. So I'm going to place that over there with screws. Alrighty, now we get into the intricate bit. Let me get something to prop that with. So, float housing. I found this dental tool was really useful, or something very fine. Housing goes here from left to right. It's butted on this end. So I'm just going to push that out. It came out really easy on mine. This supports a needle valve. You can focus on that. So it doesn't matter which way around it goes on, but just be aware as you pull it off it might fall off. So let's take that pin out. Put that there. I'm just going to lift this off. Yeah, you can see there the needle valve has just fallen off. Put that down. Now you can strip this down if you take the clip off the top. I didn't bother. I just checked that the nipple in the top where my finger is had good spring retention. So just press that down with your finger. If it pops up quick enough, for me that felt okay. Now to take this off, you just undo the screw, and on the bottom of this white plastic holder is one of your O-rings. Okay, so undo the little screw, Phillips head, put it down, and then gently just wheedle that left to right, pop it out, and you'll see there O-ring. Now, this I think was a 7mm, just clarify that, yeah, 7mm head that I think connects to the slide, which if we look in here, you can see here that this white plastic is the slide and this is connected to the slide. So undo that. Mine was really tight. It's brass though, so go steady. And that's just the collar and a hex head screw. That comes off. I'm going to pop that down there. But I made the same on my drawing. I just popped it in the relevant space. And then what you'll find now is that this whole block will slide off here. It's held on with a groove here, and then there's a retaining pin on the side of it. So you just need to wheedle it left to right. Is that a word? Wheedle. Again, Mr. Shaky Cam, one hand. Okay, I'll just pause it while I just get this going. Okay, so I've just got that started off with two hands. It just slides off. He says. Apologies for the close-upness. I hate it when you watch shaky or close videos. Okay, so that's come off. So on the top you've got two jets. They're both, on mine, were screwed right down. On the bottom you've got this gasket, which was really tricky to fit. You can see that at various places there are little arrows that allow you to sort of pinch it in. Good luck with that. So yeah, I took that off, and then I took both of these jets out. Let me just unscrew them slightly. Yeah, so this one I used an 8mm hex head drive. There's a O-ring in there, so just flop that out, and you see the O-rings just sort of hold it up to a light, is in there, and then the other one I just use a screwdriver. Flop that out. And that's I think, yeah, I'm not going to get into is it the main jet or whatever because I'm not actually sure, but you can see the hole in the middle. So pop that there. Now something that I found interesting and was curious about is you see this jet's actually warped. I'm guessing that's heat that's done that. So when I looked at the others, they were all warped, and one of them, the holes were actually worn from the outside in, which I'm guessing is pressure, heat. So because of that I decided to replace them. They cost about $30. So I'm waiting for those to come from Japan, and I'll pop up the name of where I bought them from in a minute. So that was that off, and then what we're left with now is that, which push forward and just pull it out of the head. There you go, slide out. So that O-ring's fallen out, so let's put that there. Okay, now the only other thing left for me to take out was the air pilot screw, which lives in here, and you're recommended to turn it to the right to gently seat it, counting those turns as you go to see where it was actually at. And then I made a note of that, so you can see on my diagram it was initially in at 1.25 turns, which I think the factory recommendation is 1.5, so it's pretty much, that was bang on. You know, this one was at 3.25 turns, so that was miles out. That just comes out with a straight screwdriver. So yeah, if I was going to count the turns, I'd sort of make note of which way the face of it. Mine's seated at sort of 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, so I'll just count the turns, which I know it's 1.5 because I've put it back to factory. So half, 1.5, that's lightly seated, that's all it needs. So now I'm just going to take it out. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Basically wind it back enough so you can then get it with your fingers. Okay, I think with that. Up it comes, and okay, so the O-ring has stayed in, so you've got the spring on the end there. Now there should be a little washer and an O-ring, which I'll just use my dental tool to hook out. This is where a head torch or a bright light is really useful. So you can see I've got the washer. The washer's flat on one side and slightly rounded on the other. It's the flat side to the spring rounded to the O-ring, which stops it from chafing. There we go. There's the O-ring. Okay, so I then put this jet, took the old grommet off, seal, and put this, what else did I put in there? I put the needle, just the needle, all into carb cleaner, which I used the Yam Lube one, which you added water to. It didn't do the best job, I don't think, but so I came to the conclusion, because in my air pilot screws there was no O-rings, that was probably the problem. Other than that, they weren't that dirty, the rest of the stuff. But yeah, I cleaned these bits and then used compressed air just to blow them through, which was really good. If you want to check that they're clear, you could blow smoke through them. That would be very telling. And then yeah, I used bits of carb cleaner in here. I didn't want to break the body of the carb down, and I'm aware that there are other O-rings sort of at various places in between, which I think rubber and carb cleaner isn't a good combination. Now there are jets in the front here, but I couldn't get those out, so I just blew compressed air through them. That is it basically, and then yeah, reassemble in reverse order. Hopefully it'll work. So I'm waiting now for new jets, and then I also bent a needle in the process. So I've had to order those via a shop from Japan, so it'll be a couple of weeks. But I'll tag it on the end of the video. Think I'll get a job presenting? I'll put it on the end of the video. Obviously it's no use if it doesn't work, but basically that is how you get your carb out, and they are the bits that I cleaned, and that's the journey I've been on, so hopefully it will help somebody. If it does, leave us a comment. It'd be nice to get a bit of a heads up and a thanks. Alright, good luck.